Well, on Friday, President Obama signed the Bush tax cuts extension. That's after the House voted to pass the bill by a 277 to 148 vote. New York Congressman Anthony Weiner is one of the 148 who voted against the compromise. He joined me from Capitol Hill a little earlier. Congressman, thank you for joining me. Why did you vote against what was probably the best deal the Democrats are going to get this year on this tax cut, and far better than what you will probably get if this extends over into January?
I'm not so sure about that. You know, the things that the Democrats and people like me were supporting were the popular elements of the bill: tax cuts for the middle class, trying to extend unemployment insurance. The things that Republicans were asking for were the less popular things. And so I'm not sure where the leverage lies. But putting aside whether there's leverage on one side or the other, we're always trying to do what's best for the American people. And I think borrowing $63 billion from the Chinese to give tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires is a nice thing if we could afford to do it, but we simply can't. And so I think that there are elements of this thing that were simply unaffordable and unsustainable. And also even elements of the payroll tax that were borrowed from Social Security. I don't like that precedent either. So I'm not sure I buy the premise this was the best deal, and even if it was the best deal, it wasn't good enough.
You know, I understand about the deficits, and I don't think anybody likes them, and Republicans certainly claim not to like them at all. But let's talk about deficits, because you voted for the health care bill. That's $1 trillion. You voted for the stimulus. That's 787, maybe as much as $862 billion before it's over. That money is not really accounted for. It hadn't stimulated the economy. So isn't it fair to ask, if we're upset about spending, why is it there's selection about what we're spending on that doesn't seem to have a whole lot of effect?
Just so your viewers understand this, it is not as if we are suddenly paying for health care that we didn't pay for before. We pay for the uninsured today because you and I pay higher taxes, because the uninsured go into hospital emergency rooms, they get patched up, and we pay the bill. All we're going to be doing now...
Congressman, the only place this has been attempted has been Massachusetts and to some degree Tennessee, both of which have had financial disasters when they required an individual mandate. Why is it going to be so different? Because in the few places this has been road tested, the car has gone not just off into the ditch, it's crashed into the wall into 1,000 pieces. So I guess the anxiety is sort of, you know, where's the proof of this is going to make everything better?
Well, first of all, I see in this a veiled shot at Governor Romney.
No, this is not a shot at Governor Romney.
I'm just kidding.
Seriously.
I'm just kidding. Here, let me.
I didn't even bring him up.
I'm reading between the lines. I'm no dummy. No. Here, let me answer the question. First of all, what we did learn in Massachusetts is that, in fact, what we learned is that no individual state has the muscle sufficient or the market scale sufficient in order to bring costs down sufficiently. But what we did find in Massachusetts is costs to individual localities around the state did dramatically go down because now they have a safety net that's in place. All I can tell you is the experts around here, and you can call them a lot of things, partisan they're not, but the experts at the Congressional Budget Office simply disagree. They say that over the course of the long term this is going to save an enormous amount of money. But understand the choice here. What we did is we made some tough decisions with health care to try to figure out a way for the number of people that are uninsured, whether we can use market forces, and what began as a Republican plan to use market forces to provide them lower cost insurance rather than us all pay the bill. That's the effort to do it. You can say it hasn't worked out in the first 4 months. It hasn't even been implemented yet, but that's the objective, and I think it's going to be successful.
Well, I'm talking about it hasn't worked out in the states that have attempted. I also mentioned Tennessee. Let me give credit. A Democratic governor, Phil Bredesen, is the one who gets credit for helping fix it by reversing a lot of the more generous pieces of that plan. So this was not a shot at anybody. It was just a recognition that in the states where it had been tried. Let me ask you something. The tax cut, a poll has just shown that 68% of the American people agree with the compromise, sort of indicating that people would rather see government come to some terms where they don't get everything they want, but they get something. 68% say that's a better deal, yet you say it's not that good a deal. I know we're kind of going back to that tax cut thing, but I guess I'm concerned when both Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other sort of act like if I don't get everything, I don't want anything. We'll never govern like that, Congressman.
I don't believe that we should govern based on polls. I have a sense that we should be fighting for the middle class and those struggling to make it. If I had a choice between giving a tax cut to millionaires and billionaires and giving an additional tax relief to small businesses, I would choose small businesses. Wouldn't you, Governor?
I certainly would. And a lot of those small businesses, Congressman, are the people that you guys call the millionaires because their gross revenues are in that mark. The other thing is a lot of those folks are dead people who are going to get taxed again with a big inheritance tax. 35% is where it's going to go. Many of the Democrats wanted it to go to 55%. How much is enough of a dead man's estate to take away from his widow and from his children?
First of all, this idea that government's taking something, let's not get carried away. All taxation to some degree is an agreement we all make that there are some communal things we need to pay for, and it's just a matter of how we figure out how to pay for them.
I agree.
But the question is very simply this. When someone gets money via an inheritance or a lottery or wins it at a casino but doesn't work for it, do you believe that should be taxed at a lower rate than someone who works 70 hours a week on a construction site at a lower rate? Do you believe that?
Here's what I believe.
Nor do I, nor did Ronald Reagan,
I don't
nor
believe
did
that
Teddy
you should pay
Roosevelt.
taxes on the transfer of money. I think you should pay taxes when you buy something, not when you've made money, whether it's a capital gain. Frankly, I think we ought to encourage people
I understand,
to
Governor,
make money.
But you when you become president, you can do that. But today we have a question that you asked, and I want to make sure that you and I understand one another.
Yeah.
Guy works on a construction site 70 hours a week to raise his family, did not get $1 million inheritance. He pays, let's say, 30%.
Yeah.
You want the guy who sits back and does nothing but was born the son of a rich guy, he should pay zero for that money? You don't believe that.
You know
I don't believe
what you're going to do? The guy that works on that construction site, if he works 2 shifts, guess what? He may go to a higher tax bracket, and so he's going to work twice as hard, but he won't get twice as much money because the tax structure that we have is going to punish him for working more. And Congressman, I've talked to people.
You're ducking the estate tax question.
I am not
Answer that one for me.
I just think a state tax ought to be off limits, period. So I'm absolutely clear on that.
So you think he should be taxed at a lower rate?
You're missing my point, Congressman.
No, I'm asking you a plain black and white question.
I'm giving you a very clean answer. No inheritance tax.
No, you're telling me about
zero.
You're telling me.
No, I'm telling you I think there should be zero inheritance tax. But I'm telling you that guy who's on the construction, Congressman, the guy on the construction job who works twice as hard, who gets in a new tax bracket, ought to get twice the money for working twice as hard, and he doesn't in this progressive tax.
We're talking about estate taxes.
I know, and I've already told you the answer to that. Zero.
Okay, so
I've given you that answer.
Okay, in that case, give me a moment now to recapture and just summarize what our different
we don't have that many moments, but I'll give you one question. Here's one question, Congressman, to wrap up. Let me ask you this. What should be, Congressman, what should be the tax rate? Congressman,
you've characterized for me.
Please.
You've characterized to me that you believe that the tax rate for someone that inherits money should be zero. And someone that works for it, should be something else. I think that's outrageous.
No, it's not outrageous because I think that
Ronald Reagan would laugh in your face if you said that.
I don't think
60%.
So. Actually, I would love to see, Congressman, what is the magic number? You know, Democrats love to say that we're not paying enough. What is the magic number? Is it 50%, 60%? When does it stop?
What do you mean Democrats like to say it's...
well, 35% isn't enough. You want to make it 39.
Okay. How about, let me ask you this something, Governor. How much do you make there at Fox?
Oh, I can't disclose that.
What do you mean you can't? Why?
Well, because I am under contract
I make
not to. And besides, you know what? I'll tell you another little secret. I don't have to.
I'm going to say it's $1 million.
But it's a whole lot. I'll tell you this. Let me just tell you this. It's less than I desire, and it's a lot more than I deserve. Fair enough?
I know. That's probably true. But I just want your viewers to understand why the perspective is of someone like you is different than the guy working on the construction site.
You know what?
Because,
let me tell you, Congressman, I got to throw a red flag on that one. This is what I believed when I wasn't making enough to matter. It was what I believed and what I espoused when I was making so little that I qualified for the earned income credit. So please don't give me a lecture about what it is not to be on the other end of the spectrum.
Here's what it is, Governor.
That's where I was.
Your party and this network, frankly, stands up for the very, very well-to-do. I fight for the middle class and those struggling to make it. That's why we have this difference of opinion. Well, I appreciate that. Actually, I think what this network and what I like to stand up for are the people who are working, who want to get ahead and don't want to be punished by their government for working harder and getting there. Congressman, we've got to wrap it up. I thank you very much for joining me. It is a pleasure. And I do want to say this, Congressman, thank you very much for coming to Fox. A lot of your colleagues won't, and you at least have the courage to be here. It's a pleasure. I want to tell you, I'm certainly willing to endorse your campaign. Let me know when it gets started. I bet you are. That'll kill it. Congressman, thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you here.